Hi, my name is Aakeil, Instructor 3 from the Department of History, University of the West Indies, St. Augustine. And I'm here to talk about resistance and emancipation in the Eastern Caribbean. When we talk about resistance leading up to emancipation in the British West Indies and by extension Eastern Caribbean, we must first consider insurrectionary and non-insurrectionary forms of resistance. Right? So we're talking about violence and non-violent resistance essentially. And in looking at that, we tend to focus on the major rebellions leading up to emancipation in the islands, the larger islands of the Caribbean. We're talking about Barbados, the 1816 rebellion, the 1823 rebellion in Guyana, and the 1831 rebellion in Jamaica under Samuel Sharp. Of course, we make reference to the Haitian Revolution as well, starting off from 1791 and running until 1804. But I think more attention needs to be given to the agency of the enslaved population and free-colored population in the islands of the Eastern Caribbean, what we would generally consider the smaller islands. On the island of St. Lucia, for instance, in 1791, the enslaved population walked off of the plantations because of the ideas that were being infiltrated into the society from the French Revolution and the Haitian Revolution. In 1794, you had a mulatto woman who was a freedom fighter. Her name was Flore Bois de Gaillard. And she as well, similar to what Nanny would have did in Jamaica, right? She led troops against the British who attempted to reintroduce enslavement on the island of St. Lucia. And they were successful in doing that for some time. Of course, the British then eventually, in the beginning of the 19th century, restored enslavement on the island. We must also look at Grenada and the work of Julian Fedon, who was a free color of French extraction, who also led a number of enslaved persons and free colors in a rebellion on a plantation in Grenville, on the northern eastern part of Grenada. And again, he was successful to some extent in resisting the authorities on the island. And similarly to the case in St. Lucia, some of the cues were taken from the French Revolution, the Haitian Revolution, along with the poor treatment of French settlers and Catholics on the island of Grenada by the British government. Now we can talk about emancipation. And of course, similarly, in the rest of the British West Indies, you had emancipation being proclaimed on the 1st of August, 1834. And similar celebrations took place across the Eastern Caribbean, including St. Vincent, where approximately 18,000 enslaved Africans were freed, and many of them were well aware of the momentum moving towards emancipation. They were informed of what was taking place in Britain in 1833 when it was passed in the British Parliament, and they were anticipating emancipation on the estates. And many of them went to the main Methodist chapel on the island to celebrate the occasion. But of course, we must look to the apprenticeship system, which was a piece of legislation that was embedded in the Emancipation Proclamation. And essentially, what it meant was that the enslaved population was now neither bond nor free. They still had to serve a compulsory approximately 40 hours of work per week, to the planters. And of course, resistance took place in the Eastern Caribbean towards that system. In St. Kitts, immediately they started to resist for the first few weeks of the apprenticeship system. So much of resistance took place in Montserrat that the system was prematurely ended in 1837, in November 1837, even though it was supposed to go up until 1840. For predial apprentices in particular, those who worked in the agricultural sector. And this pattern followed in Nevis, where the system was again prematurely brought to an end the following year in March 1834. With these patterns developing, the British government realized that they had a major issue in relation to resistance as well towards apprenticeship. So you had resistance towards slavery, and you had resistance to apprenticeship, which is a partial form of forced labor for the apprentices. And so as a result of these pressures by the enslaved population in the smaller islands, the British government decided in April of 1838 to bring an end to the apprenticeship system across the British West Indies. And this was done in August of 1838. So as we look to the efforts of the enslaved population and the free coloreds in the Eastern Caribbean, and of course on a larger scale in the British West Indies, we must appreciate the efforts of persons in the Eastern Caribbean to allow us to celebrate emancipation